here's our industry.
Yeah.
Here's best practices. Here's what we've learned. Here's how we do things. And then the next step being, what are you going to bring to the table to help this mission keep going? But without understanding the mission, without understanding the basics, we're never going to get there. And we've learned that.
What does it mean to plant your flag? It means you're not afraid.
It means you're passionate about what you do.
It means you're here to serve others.
In business, in life.
In good and bad.
You aren't afraid to fly your colors proudly because you know
you serve a greater purpose. This is the Plant Your Flag podcast with Mike Bean
and Jeremy Mountain. Hello, welcome back. It's the Plant Your Flag podcast with Bean Media. I am Jeremy, Director of Marketing here at Bean, and
Mike Bean, owner of Bean Media Productions.
The original Bean in Bean Media Productions. He puts the bean in Bean Media Productions.
This is true.
So every few episodes here on the Plant Your Flag podcast, we like to go back, reflect on our guests, look back on a takeaway, a clip, an impact that we felt, or a potential similarity that we have experienced. But ultimately, we recommend you go check out some of these episodes. It's really rewarding.
Yeah.
I mean, we started this thing with some ideas. It's evolved. Drake's done a really good job here of kind of evolving our production process, and we're going to keep trying to make it better for you, but ultimately it's been really fruitful for us just to be able to spend some time with these people. We talked a little bit ahead of this about the way that this has shown that these people, you're more than just your title, you're the company you work for or own, or who you are at this time of the day or in this location. It's all of it encompasses who you are, what your flag is. And that's what has been really fun, is being able to show all of these different colors that these people have, and each individual has a different flag. And that's what we're going to get into today. So we have 5 guests that we have already interviewed, and we may or may not show a clip or two, but go check out our socials, check out our shorts. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe. But it's been really fun. So starting off, Mike did 2, I did 2, and then Mike did 1 more. So it'll be a little bit around, meander a little bit here.
Yeah.
But I'll let Mike kind of introduce our first one here, Dr. Stephanie West.
Yeah, it's Dr. Stephanie, as she cleared up on the episode. I think she was great, and I've known her for quite a while. You've been along for a good portion
8 years
of that ride.
At least.
Yeah.
Good portion.
Yeah.
I think I was here the whole time.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. No, you were right from the get. Yeah. Sorry, bro. My bad.
It's all right. 11 years, Mike.
Yeah, right.
You used to yell at Colin.
Yeah.
Now it's me yelling at you.
Yeah. Well.
Why the turntables?
Yeah, the tables turn.
Yeah.
But.
Sorry.
No, you're good. This is why it's worked for this long.
Yeah.
So no, I've known her through several career
iterations,
paths, choices, whatever you want to call them. And like you had mentioned, that there's multiple components that go into anybody's flag. And I think everything that she's done up until this point has led to that. Being an author now, a consultant now, having history of being the director of animal hospitals, running a veterinary school, very prestigious veterinary school. But there's with her book. I read it prior to going into the episode, at least a portion of it.
Our first author.
Yeah, right. That's a good point. And then we'll get to later that the fact that we've got a gentleman who's produced multiple documentaries who had a different path in life. So it's really, really cool to see these people and have I really feel honored to have relationships with these people who have had successful careers in my eyes, and then said, "All right, I'm doing this."
I like how you said in your eyes, but also like beyond financial success.
Yeah,
I
right.
think so much. I mean, look, money is money and it's great. And if you have a lot of it, I'm sure life is great. But we see very, very rich people look to do things to try to entertain themselves and find no fulfillment. And I think this podcast does a good job of demonstrating like what success can realistically look like. We see so much shit on television, social media, envy. And I think
Fulfillment,
this makes it
yeah.
possible
Yeah.
and achievable and attainable, and it kind of paints a true picture of what success could be for someone.
Because if you've gone through so much and you've experienced enough in your life, and you decide that you want to break free of some kind of model that doesn't make sense to you any longer, then I think that means that you're chasing something that makes you feel full, right?
Yeah.
And which is the definition of fulfillment.
Right. And obviously your flag is not flying as
Right.
hard as or as high
Right.
as you would like it to be.
But with Dr. Stephanie, I almost felt like the book was written for me. Not to be narcissistic, but I feel like it was written for me in a way that the way that she talked about in one of the clips that we have on social media is that it's talking about getting back to doing what you love.
But a lot of people have a business, maybe like you started yours.
Yeah.
You have an idea, you have a dream, you have a thought, and you want to get it out there. And you do so, and then suddenly you realize, wait a minute, there's taxes and employees and a bank, and oh my goodness. And it can get overwhelming, and it starts to pull you away from the thing that made you love your business to begin with. So that's actually my goal. I mentioned my whole personal mission.
Yeah.
If I can empower people in their businesses to go back to loving their business and doing what they want with their mission, that's actually why I wrote the book.
The name of the book is Soap for Success, and it's something that she learned while she was in school, learning how to be a veterinarian. And it stands for Subjective, Objective Assessment and Plan. And I think that between the way that she kind of spoke about it in the book and on the podcast about the approach of writing this so people can start to maybe have a system to get back to enjoying their passion, really resonated with me. And I have taken a lot of notes out of this book and out of that podcast, because I really do think that if you can break down the process and what's going on, and is there something that is a roadblock, and can you maybe there's a nuance within the overall day-to-day. Is there a small thing that you can fix that will solve a lot of problems? And those are, things that have stuck with me ever since then. And I really, really appreciated, the time that we got to chat. And not to mention just catching up in general. But it was really, really cool. And I think her book is fantastic. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, and I do believe that having systems in place like SOAP help to organize the mind when there is a lot of bags of cats flying around, and
yeah, when there's like everything's just like flying at you at once.
Like, just imagine like the Wizard of Oz, like there's just melee shit just flying at
monkeys coming down.
Yeah,
right.
You don't know what's going to happen next. I think some of those mental mapping structures are so valuable to be able to turn back to just stay focused and forward and keep your eye on the prize, so to speak. And I agree. I mean, I've heard you talk about it. I've heard you mention it, and you've applied it to specific things, I've witnessed it. So it's obvious that she and the book had an impact. And all of these people, like some of them we've worked with, some of them we haven't, but in some way, shape, or form, like
they've kind of been transformative in a certain aspect.
And we see them as change makers beyond their title. That's why we asked them to come on, and it's clear that she's someone that we respect, obviously.
Yeah.
And another person, obviously, that we respect and that has made a big impact on our company, bringing some really, I think, evolutionary steps for a company that started from 20 years ago now almost to today. And we used to joke about a handbook a long time ago, long time ago.
Yeah.
And I know that process was arduous, but Rob did a really nice job of leading you through that. But before he started his own company, this was what he did. But now he has the ability to sort of have a little bit more control over the operation. And I know that's sort of where your takeaway came from is some of that.
Yeah, and I think like the transition that works well from from Dr. Stephanie to Rob is interesting because, like I mentioned before, her book was talking about somebody who just started a career or a business because they had a passion. Rob. Then that's what I did. Rob, on the other hand, he started a business because he just didn't like the other side. He didn't like you talk about like that corporate kind of culture.
Right.
And he wanted to do better by the people he was working with and working for. And he talked a lot about education, and he talked about transparency.
I always wanted to be more for the small business, and I just see a lot of companies going towards how many people can we get on the books and how many products can we sell them, and that's what they're concerned with, not with let's make sure they understand why they're doing this.
It's been fantastic to work with. We've hired him, he's hired us, but I got a call from him when he said I'm going to take that leap, and I've been able to witness the entire process, and to hear some of the things that he had said on the podcast was inspiring, because I don't think that everybody in payroll and HR is always thinking about making sure that the employer understands the ins and outs of the payroll system, the HR practices, just maybe puts a boilerplate handbook in front of you, doesn't spend the amount of time that he spent with me.
I'm sure it's more about quantity than quality.
Yeah.
Sales.
And the thing is that he set goals for himself in the beginning, and he's been able to accomplish those goals. Because I think he's doing it for the right reasons. And I think that that's super refreshing, and those are the people that we like to surround ourselves with. We've talked about karma clients so many times. When you're working with good people and who are doing things for the right reasons, it makes it so much easier to, I think, see eye to eye.
Yeah. Yeah, and be creative, too, I think.
Right.
I think it's difficult to be creative with someone that is negative, or like we say, create, don't negate. If you're constantly sort of finding problems or refusing to fill those problems with a solution, it's going to be difficult to do marketing with anybody. So
because if every idea is a bad idea, then you're never going to get anywhere.
You can't. You're never going to score if you don't shoot, or whatever that Gretzky Jordan poster that was on gym class locker room wall.
You never
You miss all the shots you
miss
don't
what you don't
take.
take.
Or
Yeah,
I
I
think
think that
both
was
of
it.
them had their own version at some point.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I think you could listen to Gretzky or Jordan. I think they both figured something out.
Yeah.
I think they planted a flag or two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're memorable.
Yeah.
Memorable guys.
Yeah.
But no, I definitely, I think, like, I am a big cheerleader for anybody who's going to get out there and do it themselves. So it's got to be scary.
And Kate, I mean, that's another one who.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
talk about getting out there and not being scared. I think one of the big things that Kate talked about, you know,
Kate Glaser.
You
so
might have heard of her.
Hope Rising.
I did call her celebrity, which
She didn't care for that.
she didn't want to be called a celebrity.
But it's fair enough.
she is, though.
Yeah, I mean, she's on television at least.
With respect to the title,
Yeah.
no disrespect intended.
Yeah.
But I think, like, an aside, one of the really cool things that I just remembered was her describing being a new reporter in small towns and, like, going into these diners to actually get stories.
I was covering the Genesee, Wyoming, and Orleans counties. I was their only reporter. And so I didn't have anyone to lean into. They had this little office, and I had my own camera, and I had to go knock on doors.
I was going to say, not the easiest place to just go, hey, I'm a reporter.
Yeah, it was a struggle. I did it for 3 years, and I was in my young 20s, and I had a lot of ambition, but I would, like, struggle every single day to be like, what am I going to do today? But it taught me how to think on my feet,
Right.
and it taught me how to be a better investigative journalist. So I made a lot of really great connections. I would just sometimes go and sit at the local, like, restaurant diner and just, like, talk to people, and that's where I got a lot of my stories.
I know. And having to, like, scratch that down and figure it out as she went.
Yeah.
I found that really interesting about that
that's
episode.
real journalism. That is what journalism is supposed to be. There is a creed that you're supposed to follow to be a journalist. Doesn't really matter in today's world. But for Kate, I was telling, Mike and Drake before the episode, I didn't know her before. I've seen her on television. I've seen her in social media. She seems like an incredibly glowing woman. But it wasn't until I was sitting across the table from her that I realized, like, I am a lot more similar to her than I guess I maybe gave myself credit for. Because, I look at her and I see her as an extremely successful human, and you don't always look at yourself as the most successful. But once again, in terms of defining success, in terms of what she is doing for people and what we aim to do for people, I don't want to even compare some of the things that she's doing to what we do, because what she's doing is on another level, I think. But just in the terms of, we both went to Buff State, we were very similar in age. The fact that the more I talk to her, I'm obviously from my old life was very football forward, leadership, quarterback, toughness, get guys across the goal line. And speaking to someone who's so eloquent, put together, well-dressed, newscaster, you might see her and think of her as just a pretty woman, but there's a warrior spirit in that woman that, like, you cannot argue when you're sitting across from her.
Right.
There is a
fierceness. You feel that, yeah.
A fierceness that you can feel. And it's a fearlessness and experience that she has seen and felt things that many people have not. And that gives her power. But another kind of funny thing was when she was talking about being a little girl and she always knew she wanted to be a newscaster, I asked her to tell us a little more about that. And she talked about watching, as a younger girl with her mother, watching the Today Show with Katie Couric. And I used to watch constantly in the morning. I would watch SportsCenter and watch these original newscasters from, like, the late 90s, mid 90s, late 90s. I didn't even know what I was watching yet, but I just was fascinated with this production and these clips. I loved sports, but this was different.
You're fascinated with, like, these lights and these cameras.
Yeah, there was some kind of organizational element to this, pacing and structure. It was taped on a loop back then.
Right.
But that was just another thing where I was like, you know, this person is very similar to me, and I had no idea. But ultimately, she then said Katie Couric now follows Hope Rises, which is her organization, and I just thought that was really cool.
How empowering must that feel?
Yeah, and that's, I think, a testament to the impact that she is having. But ultimately, when I walked into work here at Bean Media, I didn't know what we were going to be doing, or I just knew I wanted to do something along with journalism and make an impact, and that's what she said was how storytelling can change people's lives. It's what she learned from the Barbara Walters, the Katie Courics of her youth.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just really cool to see someone with so much power and recognition and be able to sit across from them and feel pretty similar and feel like, you know, it made me feel, I guess, a little bit better about just my purpose in this world. And it gave me, I guess, another...
Cool.
A little bit more of a push to think, you know, maybe this is actually what I am here for. And this is what I am also here
what
to
you're
do.
supposed to be doing.
Yeah. So
who was on that show that you'd like to have follow you or us?
on what show?
The Sports Center show or what have you.
Back in the day?
Yeah, was it
It was probably like Dan Patrick, like a young Dan Patrick, and like early
Do you have hair back then?
Rich Eisen.
That's what I was going to
Stuart
say. I said
Scott.
Eisen.
There was that one other guy with the curly hair and the big dark glasses. I can't think of his name, but like Olbermann, very early Keith Olbermann. But that was just that very early era of Sports Center, kind of the golden years type thing.
Well, let's try to see if we can get some of them following us.
I'm sure Rich Eisen would probably give us a shout out.
Why not?
Cool.
He seems like a cool guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has a pod.
I like him.
Rich, you want to come on the pod? That's a good time to drop a little shameless self-promotion.
As Jonah Castro told us to do.
Exactly. We did Drake did put together a very nice 2025 highlight vid. So that episode is a little, it's not like a traditional Plant Your Flag episode, but it does do a nice job of kind of allowing you to watch multiple different people at once instead of just, one long episode or focusing on one story. It kind of cuts through a bunch of different ones quickly, and I think it does a really nice job. So go check that out.
Yeah, check it out. And once again, subscribe, hit that bell, whatever platform you're listening or watching.
Yeah, drop a comment. Drop a question.
Yeah, and we respond to every comment. So if you leave one, we'll get back to you.
And if you do have someone that you think would be a good guest,
yeah,
we'd love to have them.
Yeah, we'd love to, because we've got a bunch of people who've been asking to be on the podcast, but we would love to have a longer list of people who, would like to sign up and say, hey, I've got a story to tell, because there's a lot of people out there we don't know. A lot of the people that have been on so far are people we do know. So if we can tell a story that we haven't heard already, that'd be exciting to both of us. That's fair to say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't cost anything.
No. It's just your company.
I did tell my buddy Bill that has a company. I was like, it doesn't cost anything. I probably should have led with that.
Yeah.
But Nic Lalich, this is one that I did know. We know very well. We've spent a lot of time creatively collaborating.
That was a great episode. It was inspiring. I loved it. Yeah.
Thanks. I think it was easy, obviously, to chat with Nic because we've spent some time in the trenches, so to speak, trying to just optimize our meta campaigns.
Carve through all the changes in digital marketing.
Yeah, and his experience, it's all in the episode, but essentially Nic was a agency rep for Meta ads. So he specifically worked with agencies like ours. So he was very experienced and well-versed with the process. And over multiple years, we developed a really good relationship. But we talked a lot about his own company and where he wants to bring his company, which was 86400 Entertainment, and he does a lot of concerts, promotions, and that stuff has always been something that obviously fascinates both of us.
Yeah.
We've been to a lot of shows in our life.
Yeah. Some
and
most memorable moments of my life, probably.
Yeah. Actually, Jeff Main was just at Nine Inch Nails last night up in Canada.
No kidding.
I was jealous. But the thing that Nic brought to the table, which I found to be interesting, he quoted the Steve Jobs quote, which you've probably or may not have heard, but it goes, it doesn't make sense to hire smart people and tell them what to do. We hire smart people so they can tell us what to do. And he brought it up, but he was talking about the quality of people and ensuring that you let them grow under your tutelage, but don't shackle them and don't sort of force them into a small peg.
Getting good quality people in place and then just letting them work within their jobs per se,
Right.
and make mistakes is definitely, and grow and trust in them, is the way to go. Like, that's how you grow a business.
And I think that's something over, pushing 11 years now with Bean Media and working for a entrepreneurial company from scratch. That's something that I've seen be difficult and sort of it almost forces us to be the opposite of a force, because you can't force someone.
Mm-hmm.
There is a level of communication that becomes difficult to give someone feedback, give someone negative criticism, but deliver that in a way that's going to help shape them and not set their negativity back. This industry is not easy to create. That's why we say create, don't negate, because these ideas cost money for people,
Right.
and if they don't bring money back, it's a failure. So there's a lot riding on these decisions, but that doesn't mean that creative ideas won't be able to be used at some point.
Right.
And I think it's always difficult to tell someone that while trying to train them on a certain way of thinking, but developing them from here's our industry, here's best practices, here's what we've learned, here's how we do things, and then the next step being, what are you going to bring to the table to help this mission keep going? But without understanding the mission, without understanding the basics, we're never going to get there. And we've learned that. But now I think, as of right now, everyone on our team has established a baseline of the industry, and they've all established an understanding of the history and culture that you and us have tried to establish. And we're seeing the difference in our team starting to create positive ideation and changes that are helping what you originally created beyond just us and outside of us.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that really is what Nic was getting at.
Yeah. There's two things I want to say about that. Is one, Nic is from Canada, so to quote a Canadian artist that I really appreciate, Matthew Good. It's to do that is similar to walking on a dental floss tightrope over a wilderness of razor blades. It's a tongue twister.
Yeah.
But it's not an easy thing to do. But once you get that, it feels so great.
A dental floss tightrope over a wilderness of razor blades.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So that's my my buddy Matthew Good up from Vancouver. I met him once, but so we're not really buddies, but I really appreciate his music. But then
I did not say I know him. I said he touched me on the shoulder once.
Yeah.
That's from Gladiator.
No.
You knew Marcus Aurelius.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's all right.
It's a movie dyslexia.
Yeah, no, it's all right.
My bad.
Russell Crowe thing has crossed my path a couple times.
Yeah, that's right. What was it like shooting that?
Yeah, I mean, it was tough.
What did you think when they came out with Gladiator 2?
I wasn't happy about it. But the other one was Paul Chisholm was on, and he was using an analogy of if you kind of cut down an employee and you tell him exactly what to do, and he used the metaphor of if you want your son to cut the grass, you don't tell him exactly how to cut the grass. You just show him the neighbor's grass that you like and say, I want it to look like that, and let them figure it out.
Interesting.
So I found some parallel in like what you're saying.
Yeah.
With Steve Jobs has obviously had quite a bit of money. But Nick has followed some very smart people, and I think he's actually met
the Zuckster.
Good old Marco.
Yeah. He mentioned him by first name several times.
I know. Yeah.
So
I try not to pry too much.
But he's legit.
Yeah.
He's not a bullshitter.
Yeah.
Nick is legit, and I have seen it many times.
Yeah.
And he's made me better. He's pushed me, and sort of another thing he mentioned, which makes sense, because he mentioned how he tries to keep things positive, and I laughed and I said I can attest to that, because there's been several times
that's a good clip
where I have been going off about this or that, and he's just always like, all right, let's do this. And I'm like, that's what makes our relationship with him so strong, I think.
Yeah.
But I know, speaking of strong relationships, I know Dan Lukasik is one that you've had a very tight relationship with for a long time, and that's our most recent episode.
Yeah. Dan's a great man. It's a really strange story on how we met, and we talk a little bit about it in the podcast. But a little bit behind the scenes is one of the guys I went to college with, and I don't know how he got in touch with me exactly, because Tyler, who I've brought up on this podcast when we were talking about the AI episode, I brought up Tyler. He had worked with Dan. And then Dan had basically, after he was working on the website for depressionwithlawyers.com.
Lawyers with Depression.
Or is it Lawyers with Depression?
I would assume so.
Yeah, I'm saying Depression with Lawyers. Yeah, sorry.
I mean, that would be a good talk show.
Lawyerswithdepression.com. Because now he has a new project that he's working on. But it's essentially he's teamed up with somebody who I already know, and then he comes back around through another circle. Long story short, I end up producing editing a documentary for him. And at the time, he's a trial attorney. He's starting to identify his struggle with depression and wanting to get the word out, and how it's affected his career, his life. And it opened my eyes to mental health, really, to like I was a 27-year-old kid. And then we stayed in touch throughout him, changing. He was a partner of his law firm. He continued to be a partner of a different law firm, and throughout the whole process, we would go to coffee. He ended up creating 2 documentaries after that, and he just brought up some just really, really incredible things that I think his transparency is what's almost awe-striking about him.
One of the toughest aspects of living with depression, or you could say any mental illness, is loneliness. You feel ashamed of what you're going through. You feel like, why can't I figure this out? Why can't I fix myself? But you can't on your own. So I said to myself at some point, if I ever survive this, I'm going to go out and help other people so they don't feel lonely. And that's began my journey.
He is very open about the fact that mental health is something that's kind of being ignored. It should be more forefront in the workplace. And I had made a comment in the podcast about how I find it to be ridiculous that New York State mandates that we put insurance information all over the walls in this office, but there is no requirements for putting anything up about mental health and where to figure out how to get help if you need it. So it's something I'm going to be working on as a business owner myself is, all right, well, he talked about like an EPA. All right, where do we get one of these? Like, why has this never been brought up before? So he's educating, companies and beyond the legal industry about how, this is a big thing. It's a huge factor. It's costing companies billions of dollars across the United States because of absenteeism and so many other different aspects that are just, like I said, it's like so complex what he gets into. And that's why I really appreciate his transparency on just talking about his struggles, his brother's loss, just like the things that I think most people would have a real hard time talking about.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, as you were talking, it just kind of a lot of things popped in my head, but like overarching theme is like thinking about how our relationship, you and I, like we've always been pretty transparent. I think we've always personally opened up to each other.
Yeah. And we'll call each other out. I think that's why we work well together.
I think like I'm literally thinking back, and now I'm looking at this podcast, and I'm thinking like this podcast wouldn't exist if you and I weren't transparent with our mental health.
Right. Yeah.
Like we have grown this company and this podcast and this culture almost on the back of you and I being able to talk about things. And it's a shame that that is probably obviously not the case in a lot of businesses where,
No.
I mean, we've joked about things obviously that we won't share.
Right.
But I mean,
Appreciate that.
there's things that you and I have talked about personally that
Yeah.
I wonder if more people felt as though they could come to their boss or their manager or their director and just feel like instead of sitting there all day long, I mean, this is how it started with me, is I didn't want you to think that I was distracted or not doing a good job. So I'm like, look, this is what's going on. And then you would connect and we'd talk about it, and then I'd get back to work because I
Right.
felt like I could talk to you. But I would hate to feel, and I have felt, as though like if I tell this, they're going to judge me. If I tell this, they're going to think of me this way. If I tell this, they're going to think I'm not doing shit today. And it is interesting to think about the fact that like maybe it is something that needs to be talked about more. Like you can tell your boss that you're feeling depressed and they're not going to judge you.
And what Dan was saying is that if you should have an avenue, if you don't feel comfortable admitting that to your boss, you should have someone that you can reach out to say it to. So I'm glad that we have this.
Yeah.
And I hope everybody in this office feels that way. But I am going to be, like I said, going to be looking into how I can also have other avenues for people to, just voice what they're going through.
If you're feeling,
Yeah.
there are resources.
Yeah.
And opening up that conversation to say like, look, just if you have something going on, don't feel like it needs to be a mystery,
Right.
because that's just going to add on in my personal experience. But quickly, Dan works with MHA of WNY, and Kate Glaser has a huge hand over at MHA of WNY, and then obviously you and us have had an impact with the mental health chat. Trying to provide
We got into that.
a place for young people to be able to go somewhere without judgment of telling mom or telling dad or telling coach.
And they opened it up recently
It's the Trusted
be
Chat.
a
It was
little bit
originally the
more-
teen chat
yeah.
line. Now it is the Trusted Chat line. So it was originally for just like younger people, but now it's from I think age 9 to like 29 or something like that.
Yeah.
28 maybe.
I would be surprised if they cut it off at any age.
Yeah.
But then once again, to kind of like circle back, like Tyler was the one who developed that with us. so,
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So that's just kind of wild how the world works.
And this is why we started this podcast.
Right.
Because we have joked over, years now that like if we could only make a show about this, well, this is our version of that.
Right,
At least
right.
we'll be able to look back on this someday and know that we were a part of all these people's lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, this is, it is very gratifying, and I'm excited about, who's next.
Yeah.
And
Anyone with a flag, anyone with a mission, anyone with a company, anyone with a goal, whether you haven't started it yet and you want to talk about it, or whether you've been doing it for 100 years, we're willing to tell your tale.
Right. So who's signing off here today?
You.
All right. Well, hey, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to our recap episode. Jared and I have had a lot of fun going through the last several. We'd love if you would revisit them and reach out to us if you have any questions. Don't be afraid to comment. And please like, subscribe, hit the bell, all those fun things. Thank you.
Check. Turn up my headphones. Turn up my headphones. Check. Turn up headphones. Turn up phones. Checky. Turn up my headphones. Turn up phones. Chucky. Check phones. Check. Turn up my headphones. Turn up headphones. Turn up headphones. Turn up head. Drake, I just chugged that thunder muscle, so you know. Turn up headphones. Turn up phones. Checky. Turn up my head.